Germany was the center of the naked movement in Europe. Since the late 1800s, thousands of men and women have been involved in the well-known free body culture to get the health benefits of outdoor light and air. By going naked in public, bohemian types who were generally rebelling against their parents made the FKK movement more well-known. Soon, people from all walks of life in Germany were going naked on hikes, in camps, and in colonies, even though it was against the rules. German nudists came from a wide range of social groups and subcultures. They included middle-class office workers who were afraid of what imprisoning garments would do to them, and early fascists who admired the bare-chested roots of their religion. Nudists, who were socialists, pushed workers to see their bodies as their own natural space, away from the stresses of modern industrial society in the 1920s. Officials in the area even backed the idea that hiking clubs, air baths, and exercise classes that take place outside in well-ventilated areas could help cure tuberculosis. This is the story of the German nude movement and how the Nazis used it. The context that created the movement. The practice of nudism in Germany has a long and illustrious history that represents the many different aspects of the country. Over the course of the latter half of the 19th century, Germany had a period of fast industrialization as well as extensive internal migration. More than half of the German population moved to urban areas during the Second Empire, which lasted from 1871 to 1918. This occurred during the time period. It was because of this tremendous movement to the new urban centers, particularly in West Germany, that a flourishing civil society emerged. This civil society was comprised of a variety of neighborhood associations, social and political subcultures, and structured groupings within which newcomers strove to establish themselves. Because of this, the majority of people today live in conditions that are overcrowded, wet, and lacking in sanitation. It is not a coincidence that many of the communities and subcultures came into being as a response to the public health crisis that they perceived to be caused by the squalor that they were forced to suffer. The life reform groups attempted to solve the issues by implementing a variety of solutions, including but not limited to the following: vegetarianism, abstinence from tobacco and alcohol, natural healing, Buddhism, and the building of rural communes and garden cities. In accordance with the recommendations of the Swiss physician Arnold Rickley, a few of them began engaging in naked sunbathing, also known as Licht-Luftbade, German for light and air baths. According to historian John Alexander Williams, the popularity of nudism in Germany can be traced back to the socialist labor movement. Williams explains this in his book titled Turning to Nature in Germany, Hiking, Nudism and Conservation, 1900 to 1940, which was released in 2007. Weimar socialists saw nudism as a way to repair the body, the worker's sole true capital, since the health of the proletariat was in really grave straits, as Williams puts it. Karl Diefenbach, the man who promoted nudism. Karl Diefenbach was the pioneering reformer who advocated for the practice of nudity as a course of treatment and a lifestyle choice. After adopting a strict vegetarian diet, he and his family moved to a remote quarry outside of Munich. There, he went without clothing during the summer months and wore nothing but a hair tunic during the winter months. In the year 1888, Diefenbach was taken into custody for nudity in public while he was holding his son. Due to the fact that he represented himself in court, the allegations that were brought against him were dismissed. Diefenbach believed that the ancient Greek statues depicting bodies in their natural state were the epitome of beauty. He believed that ancient Greeks had reached an ideal that modern Europeans had, unfortunately, failed to achieve: a perfect harmony between the body and the intellect. He claimed that the advantages of nudity from a reformist point of view matched this ideal. Within the realm of urban creative circles, the creation of small, covert groups with the intention of bringing this vision to fruition occurred. An example of this would be the members of Deutsche Hellas stripping down to their underwear and taking photographs of each other in the woods, imitating the poses of Greek gods and goddesses. In the event that this was not the case, they would hold beauty evenings, in which they would either stand naked as living statues or watch nude dancing performances by superstars such as Olga Desmond. They made their photographs and thoughts available to the world through the publication Die Schönheit. How racial impurity was apparently ruining society. An argument may be made that Hugo Hoppener, better known by his nickname Fidus, was Diefenbach's most talented student. Rather than drawing inspiration from ancient Greece, Fidus used a romanticized depiction of German history as his source of motivation. An ancient Roman historian named Tacitus detailed how German tribes engaged in ferocious battles against imperial forces and how they frequently prevailed. These battles were fought in mixed columns of men and women, all of whom were naked. The famous etchings of Fidus combined the sexual with the mystical, and they were published in publications that were dedicated to the Nudist movement. These etchings depicted the nudist warrior ancestors of the German race. Throughout the course of his career, Fidus published a number of works in which he advocated for a German culture that was subject to reform and discipline, and which was founded on the racial purity of the Teutonic warriors. A number of people who believed that the current public health situation was a sign of ethnic deterioration found this to be a particularly striking statement. Life expectancy and quality of life in Germany during the 19th century improved overall, despite the fact that the living conditions of urban workers became increasingly deplorable. There was an emergence of a new middle class that overlooked Tacitus and other academics who held a romantic view of nakedness. This new middle class did not place a high emphasis on studying the classics and was unaware of their existence. Despite the fact that they did not have access to formal education, members of the middle class gained motivation from the writings of life reformers such as Richard Ungewitter. At the time, Ungewitter advocated for a diet and lifestyle that blended nudism and vegetarianism in order to be more physically robust. He postulated that the entrance of non-Germans, including as Jews and blacks, had polluted the once pure German race, which he referred to as the German race. He said that the easiest way to solve the problem would be for everyone to become a nudist. This would allow the so-called superior species to easily recognize one another. The radical work of Coke. We are emotionally and externally disturbed people due to the unhappiness of our times, the monotony of our labor, and the effects of World War I, argued Adolf Koch. Koch was a social critic who lived throughout the 20th century. His foresight would eventually yield fruit in places all over Germany. He is often referred to as the Karl Marx of nudism. While serving as a soldier in World War I, he was also a first-grade teacher. During the conflict, he suffered severe injuries and came dangerously close to losing his life. Koch then had cholera, which left him with a lasting disability and a narrow escape from death. He saw that the body was being assaulted by the strains that were brought on by industrialization, trench warfare, and the subsequent food shortages and economic deprivation that resulted from these factors. Koch was employed in 1923 to work as a teacher at a public school in the Moabit neighborhood of Berlin. It was during his time at the school that he came up with a solution to the health problem that had been plaguing Germany ever since World War I. Nudists put forward the argument that the civilized world introduced sexual implications to the naked body, which had not been present in the past. After receiving permission from both the parents and the school inspector, Koch introduced nudism to the school as a new extracurricular activity. Prior to the development of antibiotics and a large number of effective vaccines, medical doctors in Germany felt that the best way to maintain people's health was to expose them to natural light, to engage in physical activity, and to breathe in fresh air. In a short amount of time, he was able to correct the sagging breast, dangling shoulders, and terrible posture of the young men and women that he trained in gender-segregated nude gymnastics sessions. As a consequence, their self-assurance increased significantly. It seemed as though being exposed to sunshine benefited in the healing process of infections, prevented rickets, and alleviated symptoms of eczema. "Air and sun are the worst enemies of all proletariat sickness," said Richard Bergner, Koch's colleague, praising the health benefits of going nude. Bergner said that going nude is beneficial to one's health. The perception of nudism as a cutting-edge scientific activity was enhanced as a result of this. According to Koch, clothing was an indication of the limitations imposed by civilization and the oppressive powers of capitalism. He regarded it to be an unnatural phenomenon. The removal of one's clothing and, thus, the elimination of material and social distinctions could, in his opinion, result in the establishment of a utopian society. Even though various bourgeois nudist societies published more material and, as a result, left a more substantial documented legacy, Koch's socialist nudism was by far the most popular nudist movement in German history. Koch's nudism was a key contribution to the nudist movement. It was in 1924 that he established the Berlin School for Healthy Pedagogy and Physical Culture of Berlin. By the time the 1920s came to a close, 13 Koch schools had been established all over Germany to cater to the working class. As of the year 1933, the Berlin Koch School had produced 3,947 graduates throughout its history. As of the beginning of the 1930s, there were approximately 80,000 nudists who were actively practicing in Germany. Of this number, approximately 20,000 were members of the bourgeois nudist clubs, while the remaining approximately 60,000 were members of either Koch schools or communist nudist groups that were related to Koch schools. Immediately following the Treaty of Versailles' decision to do away with mandatory military service, there was a rise in the level of concern regarding Germany's national fitness. The argument in favor of Koch schools, which placed an emphasis on physical education and taught about health and the labor movement, was strengthened as a result of this. A growing network of educational and publishing resources for nudists in Germany and around the world, of which the schools were an essential component, included Koch's journal, We Are Naked and Call Ourselves Du. This publication was just one resource among many. During the First World Congress on Nudity, which took place in 1929 at the Berlin Koch School, there were representatives from 23 different countries. Koch also mentioned that the number of people who were members of German nudist societies surpassed 3 million the next year. Nazi influence and appropriation. Due to the fact that they adhered to their own set of principles and ideologies, the Nazis put a stop to Koch's effort. Koch, like a great number of other Germans, responded to the new government by conforming to its policies and implementing modifications where required. Following the destruction of his school in Berlin by the SA, he re-established it under the name of the Adolf Koch League for social hygiene, physical culture, and exercise. Koch also wrote in a 1934 essay that racial biology and racial hygiene are vital in our war for public health, an attempt to win over the regime that ultimately failed. When the Nazis discovered the philosophy's Marxist elements the following year, they closed the school. The only description of the school's history was written by Gisela Spitzer, a sports historian. Spitzer said that in addition to providing exercise courses, the school also served as a safe haven for dissatisfied socialists and trade unionists. Koch relaunched the school as the Institute for Eubiotics. Hermann Göring, claiming that the naked culture movement destroys women's natural sense of shame and undermines men's respect for women, issued a decree outlawing the trend on March 3, 1933. The Hitler Youth were dispatched specifically for the purpose of vandalizing the sites of nudist clubs. When being persuaded by SS Major Hans Suren to rebrand themselves under the banner of the League for Body Discipline, The Nazi administration eventually agreed to allow a small number of nudist clubs. This occurred when the government was convinced by Suren. During the time that Suren was in charge of the physical training of the German army, he introduced new exercises such as nude cross-country running and caber tossing. In his book Man and the Sun, which was published in 1924, he celebrated the advantages of his characteristic gymnastic exercise, the spiritual benefits of being nude, and the merits of oiling oneself from head to toe. He also praised the qualities of walking naked. Man and the Sun, Aryan Olympian Spirit, a revised version of Man and the Sun that was published in 1936, became a bestseller in Nazi Germany immediately after its publication. In the latter part of the 1930s, people like Richard Darré, Reinhard Heydrich, and Rudolf Hess were in agreement that Suren's advocacy of nakedness was in line with the ideology of the Nazi Party. In the year 1942, Heinrich Himmler issued an order that legalized and encouraged the practice of nudity. According to Williams, the command that Heinrich Himmler issued in 1942, who was one of the regime's most ardent supporters of nudism, is partially responsible for the rise in popularity of nudism in both East and West Germany. On the other hand, Suren's luck took a turn for the worst in the same year when he was expelled from the Nazi Party for masturbating in public. The fact that this legislation is mostly to blame for the widespread practice of casual nudity in modern-day Germany is paradoxical when one considers the Nazis' initial stance on the topic of nudism. We hope you liked this video. Watch another video here.